Hi, I'm Rappler Entertainment Editor Marguerite De Leon, and welcome to the latest episode of Rappler Talk Entertainment. Now, singer-songwriter Kakie Pangilinan has long been known for speaking her mind online about current events. Thinks much further on the ground for Team Kakampink. Her dad, Senator Kiko Pangilinan, served as Vice President Lenny Robredo's running mate for the 2022 national elections, and Kakie and her mom, actress-singer Sharon Cuneta, were with the tandem all across the Philippines for what's become one of the most important volunteer movements in recent history. Now that the dust is starting to settle on the elections and results have not boded well for the Kakampinks, what has Kakie learned from all this and what's coming next? So hi Kakie, welcome to Rappler Talk.
Hi Margie, thanks for having me. Hi everyone who's watching.
I guess the obvious first question would be, kumusta ka na? How are you? How's the family feeling?
I feel like, that's also the question I've been asked most in recent days.
Of course.
But I think that it's an interesting, so the answers evolved, no? Since very early, since maybe the first day right after, then now I think my answer would be, thankfully on a personal level, we're all fine. We're good. We're great. We're able to laugh, smile, be together, watch movies, have dinner, and just feel sort of and it's also been a welcome rest, certainly, especially for dad, especially for mom also, but not on a dad. But at the same time, there's that other part, there's that part of us that's Pinoy, that's Filipinos, and you can't help but feel a sort of dread, or a sort of, there's just this foreboding. I don't really know how to describe it, right? But I'm sure people have felt the same. I'm sure everybody's felt some version of it a bit, because it's like we're on the precipice of really, really intense change. And, but I think that people think that we're probably really heartbroken or really on again, the personal level, no. And it's not really that, because from the very beginning, we knew it was going to be an uphill battle. And so, looking back, it was always processing that, right? It was always processing, kasi kilala namin yung kalaban. And, yeah, but in a way, it sort of prepared us for this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
This outcome was always in the cards. No.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So let's focus on the good stuff. So the
Okay.
past few weeks have been a whirlwind for the Lenny campaign. So what were your favorite memories?
Oh my God. The first one that comes to mind is when we went to Legazpi. I went to Legazpi with Team Kiko. It was a crazy, first of all, my leg of the campaign was crazy because I went to 12. I listed 11 on a tweet. It was 12. I forgot Caloocan.
Sorry, Caloocan.
I'm so sorry, Caloocan. But I went to 12 places in 7 days. It was because I came here early to campaign, then I got COVID, which was so I genuinely, that was the most frustrating week of my life. But then, after that, immediately, I was like, go, 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 give me everything. I don't want to look back at this one day and tell my kids that I relaxed or tell my kids that I didn't do absolutely everything I could. The first time, I think, the campaign really started though, I think, when Jill and I were in New York together. We had a walk for democracy there. And that was a lot of fun because I'd never really spoken to Jill that much, point blank. I always admired her and her sisters and her mom, obviously. And Jill was the only one who I followed on Instagram for the last 6 years and everything. And I love her brain. I love what she does. But we really didn't talk until they announced candidacy. And when they announced, she was the first and only one that I texted because everybody was trying to call, and I was I don't have the energy or the emotional range and the capacity to deal with this right now. So I texted Jill muna, and I was like, "Musta na bestie?" And she replied "Oh nga, I was gonna text you daming ganap," or something to that effect. And I'm thankful for Jill because in her I had a confidant, in her I had somebody who I could just go grab, because we were so far away. And that's I don't know how to explain that. That was that unsettled us so much,
right.
Because we knew everything that was at stake. And to feel so far removed from home at that time, there's a certain helplessness to it. na parang wala kaming nagagawa or or at least for me personally, I can't speak for her, but for me it was really like, what the hell am I doing here? I need to go home right now. But then I had Jill, and because we had each other and we were able to do all these things and like talk and like confide in one another and bond even a little bit, and like even we went to like a Swifty Zoom meeting, like a Kakampink, like Swifties for Lenny meeting. That was so fun. And it was the things like that, I think, that kept me okay in the first part of the campaign. And then when I came home, got sick, tested positive, that was so annoying. And then a week later, yun nga, parang there was no sleep that entire week. And the first thing that I was gonna say though that I remember so vividly is when we went to Legazpi. I went to Legazpi and I saw Mayon like clear, like completely daragang magayon. And I don't know, I've always had a spiritual, sounds so cheesy. I've had like a really deep love na lang for like mountains, especially our mountains, like Baguio and like, things like that. So like to see her and like she's so big, I don't know, it felt so, parang I'd never seen anything more beautiful than that. And that gave me sort of like the conviction to power on for that day, because that day was ridiculously long. There was so much to do and so much to get done and like a few issues, hiccups here and there. But miraculously, at the end of the night, you open a San Mig light and it's like, it's great, it's there. And like, yeah, so that was incredibly, I want to go back nga and see her. Because, I don't know,
You stopped the car, right?
Yeah, I did. I stopped the car because I was like, wait, because when we got there already, we went to the top of this church. I forget the name exactly. I'm really bad with names and like titles and things, which is horrible for somebody trying to campaign. But because when we first saw her and like there were like one or two clouds scattered, which already in itself we were told is like so rare. Like that's so rare, like that's good, and she only shows herself, diba daw, to those pure of heart or good-hearted, which made me feel a little like, oh, like, wait. And, I wanted to cry. But then when we drove on later to our next engagement, talagang wala nang clouds, ni isang ulap. It was so clear, perfect cone. And I got out of the car. I was like, Kuya, I'm so sorry, Kuya. Was that Kuya Alan? Yeah, I think that was Kuya Alan. I was like, I'm so sorry. Can you please stop the car like as kindly as possible? Like, and like I would just like to see this. And I think I was listening pa nga in the car to like the Philippine Madrigal singers or something. There's this one song, sa kanyang paglalayag. It's on that album like Euphonos, whatever. I'm sorry, I'm a bit of like sorry. I love stuff like that, and I've been studying that for like a while because it's such an interesting sound. But like I was listening to that. And then I got out of the car and I was like, I shed a tear.
May moment ka talaga.
Like, talagang there was a moment. Yeah. Like, it felt so like, it felt like a film. And so that's imprinted in my brain because of that. But then there's so many. See, that's the thing. It's
I can only imagine.
There's so many. Like, Iloilo was wonderful also. I had Batjoy finally after years. Like, real Batjoy. And meeting all the volunteers, that was the most important part, I think, to me. Because you see the passion of these people na parang this is the only campaign where I've lived through four. Mm-hmm. This is the only one where it felt like we were not alone in this.
Wow.
Like normally you're like, diba,
yeah.
you're part of candidates
team.
extension, the team, everyone like that, and you're sort of like, okay, like trying to engage with people, talk to people, things like this. This was the first one where we felt, and I say unalone because I don't want to say like not alone, because I think that alone, you have to think about what being alone feels like first, and then flip that around and reject it, and like think of, and that's what that was to me. And so the volunteers, like, and that was weird. It was weird in the best way possible. It was.
So you mentioned kanina yung Swifties for Lenny.
Yeah.
There's actually a special subgroup of Kakampinks who really showed a lot of love to your family in particular, the K-pop stans. There's a group called K-pop stans for Lenny, right?
Yes.
So could you tell us more about them?
That was, oh my gosh, Miel would know more about that, my baby sister, because she is like the ultimate K-pop stan. For some reason, like in recent years of me like growing, I'm turning 22 now. I gave an interview when I was like 18, maybe 18, where like I said at the time that I didn't listen to K-pop, and that, but like, you know, my reasoning was, I think they're really talented. I remember exactly what I said, because I don't, you know, I meant it. I was like, I think that they're really talented, they're really good. It's just that at the time I had qualms about news that I'd read circulating about, you know, like entertainment companies in Korea,
Oh, right.
and like certain things like
being
that.
exploitative.
Yeah, exactly. And I, you know, so I had my hesitations. But then like later on, you know, you learn more about, especially like the bigger companies. And like I have friends who are Korean who like explained to me like, no, like they're really actually respectable, like, you know, they're good and stuff like this. It's not, they're not mistreated in the way that it is often sensationalized in the media.
Right.
And especially Western media, apparently. And so I was like, okay. And then, you know, I started listening with Yeli because I want to bond with my sister, and I want to, because Yeli's always been so supportive of my interests in a really like deeply touching way that, you know, at some point I was like, no, you know what, I'm going to memorize these 20, back then they were 21 pa lang, the members of NCT. I was like, I'm going to memorize all of them for her. And now they're 23.
So you're an NCT fan?
Yeah, N-Citizen, I guess. With Yeli, yes. I can't say because I'm an N-Citizen because I think that she's always going to be more an N-Citizen than I am. And out of personal conviction that that's like her thing, I'm going to give that to her. But I do love and appreciate and like deeply admire the work of NCT.
You
and
have a
K-pop.
bias in, in the group?
And all 23, because they have subgroups, no?
Yeah.
I had a really, for Wavy for a very, very long time, but they've been gone for a while. Or, well, not gone. They've been on break for a while. But, I don't know, each one of them has their, and I
They
think
all
that's the
fulfill
point.
something.
And that's why
for
it
you.
like works, because then what you do is you take like, they come up with a concept or some conceptual. Also, they don't make music that is strictly like on the marketable sense.
Right.
And like it's really that's what gets me. Like I listen to their, like Miel is the one who's like, you listen to them because your like brain is like ticking, like the drums on this, like the sounds on this, and then she's like, I just like it. I think it's nice. But that's what, yeah. I can't say that I have a bias because there's so many of them. But if you gave me a subgroup and an era, I would choose one.
Yeah, from all those people down to 2 people, was there anything new you learned about your mom and your dad during this whole thing? Like something you never expected you'd find out about them?
I think I'm very proud of my mom. She's evolved a lot in the last year or so, you know, as a person. I think she's found this strength in her that she didn't think she had, in a very strange way. Because, you know, she's always talked openly about how she doesn't have a liking for politics. But this time around, talagang iba eh. I couldn't tell you what it was. It just felt, it's like from the very beginning. It's really funny actually, because I was with her the day that Dad was asked by VP to run with him. And she was in America with me, she was in New York with me, which was some fated thing, because she's not like always in New York with me, like she was always home. And that was our first night together. And she said out of nowhere, I remember that so clearly, because during dinner I like laughed about it because she's never encouraged Dad naman to run for higher office or anything like that, you know, kasi nga she doesn't really like politics, or she didn't. But that night, even though it was sort of jokingly, I knew she meant it, because why would she say it? She was like, you know, if your dad ran for higher office, I would support him because, you know, in her own quippy way, she was like, he's masungit, but he has a good heart. So I was like, oh, that's so, you know, I texted him about it. And then 10 minutes later, he texts me and he goes, VP just asked me to be her running mate.
Wow.
And I was like, I had many a beer that night. Things like that felt really scary. But yeah, and I was calling him pa. I was like, I always said I wish because I knew he wasn't going to. Like I wanted him to really badly, but I knew we couldn't. But I was like, I wish we could wait 6 more years. Right. Give us preparation, because that's what people don't understand about this, I think. He never had the ambition to run for vice president. That was not in the cards. It was never about like, I really want this office right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was we were gunning for re-election,
Right.
Senate. And that was, we already were so scared because we thought that was going to be the hardest election of our entire lives. Because you need to understand, after years of disinformation, targeted harassment, every single day, we genuinely thought the Philippines hated us, the family by extension. And I'm looking at Dale now because Dale is more than Team Kiko, and I was fully like, I was talking to her because I was going like, when the day they announced there was an outpour of support, nagulat kami, like legitimately. It was like, oh, not everybody hates us pala. Which was this really cathartic, like, because, oh my God, you know, because it felt like suntok sa buwan, shot in the dark, things like that. But my parents, this whole time, this is the first campaign I think that they've really been kapit to each other like this. And I told them, I was like, as long as the six of us are okay, we'll be okay. And like, that's what we've learned from this. Like, it's changed us forever, the entire family. But we couldn't have, I don't think any of us would be here right now if we didn't have each other.
Right.
And yeah.
Your mom actually confessed earlier that she and your dad didn't see eye to eye on President Duterte, like speaking of politics.
Yeah.
Like, how did you feel about that when she publicly expressed that?
Well, she was being honest.
Right.
And, you know, that's something that we had to talk about all the time, or like, not even talk about all the time. We rarely talked about it because I think it was a hard subject. But there were many, dinner table spat, like situations, like things like that. But the thing about my parents is they are both completely their own people and also equally respectful of each other to that extent. Like, my mom would never try to control my dad, and my dad would never try to control my mom. You know, they draw boundaries based on their love for each other, which is like, you know, my dad nga never wanted to gun nga for higher office because he knew that it wouldn't matter unless mom supported him or mom was like really full into it, like with her whole heart. And, you know, so that's why, like, yung ganun, parang the compromises were made not because necessarily one like got mad at the other or one like snapped. But the compromises were made because they're both very, very clever people, intelligent people who like just didn't agree naturally on some things, which is very human. And every house has that. And, you know, obviously there are also, like, I fight with Dad. Sorry, Dad. Yeah, I think in the house, actually, I'm the one who argues with Dad the most, which shocks a lot of people. Because, you know, you hear this dialogue na parang, I'm just following what he does. It's like monkey see, monkey do, whatever. I've heard that because they like to call me Unggoyita and they like to call him Unggoy. That's hilarious script, like, wow. But yung ganun, like, people assume, I think, that I'm a follower because they're both such strong personalities, right? Which is okay. But yung ganun din, like, I'll argue with them. Like, we all sort of have our own, you know, I think we're all united in principle, but not necessarily in perspective.
Oh, that's a good way of putting it.
Right, which is like everybody, I think it's everybody. I don't think that there's a single Pinoy out there who voted because they thought that their candidate was like worse. You know, I think that they genuinely voted because they wanted the Philippines to just be better. And they know that we all have this fundamental belief that better is attainable, otherwise why do we fight for it?
Right.
Like, what's the use? And, you know, like, that's respect. That's just what that is. Like, you respect that. And I think that most choices naman, all choices are always understandable, not necessarily justifiable, but from the human lens of experience of somebody's like very unique collection of experiences, somebody's very unique upbringing, their very unique identity, like whatever, all of those things add up to like a human being that can be understood. And you don't have to justify something to be able to understand it, and you don't have to understand something to be able, no, you do have to understand something to be able to justify it. That was the wrong point. But yeah, you know, like you don't have to, yeah.
People are made up of all these experiences that lead them to certain choices. Mm-hmm. So like, while their actions may not necessarily be justifiable, it's understandable because they went through certain things to think a certain way.
Because I don't think that anybody's ever born like evil. I don't think people are born wicked. That's denying people the basic understanding that we are complex creatures, which is ridiculous. Like, to say that somebody, and I think that that's why social media now is so dangerous. Because we've developed these parasocial relationships with each other that reduce us to digital footprints. And that's so unhealthy, because people are not that simple. People are not that two-dimensional, And it's like, it could be argued we're like 5D, 4D, diba? Things like that. And it's like, I don't know, I think that's the frustration now. Because then it became a 2D election,
Okay.
I can't say more.
So, there was a huge number of celebrities supporting Lenny. This was something that Filipinos had honestly never seen in the past elections, not at this scale, I think.
Yeah.
So why do you think so many big names from the entertainment industry came out with their political stance this time around?
Because I think especially with COVID, which sort of exacerbated a lot of our issues and a lot of systemic injustice. Systemic. I caught it first. Systemic injustice. I think that, that was all, parang COVID catalyzed this sort of dismantling of the illusion for a lot of people in privilege that everything was fine. Na okay lang, to stay silent, or okay lang na, or that not everything has to be political. I do think everything is political from any angle you look at it. Like, there's many, like everything can be reduced to that. But at the same time, it's more than ever now as well, with the digital world being what it is, I think that there was a certain healthy amount of pressure that encouraged people to inform themselves, especially people in positions of power, influence. I say this a lot, so I've said this before, so if anybody's watching this has heard me say it, just pretend it's the first time I've said it, and it's like the most, But I think that it's so unhealthy that we've also quantified influence, because influence is a term and a concept that's existed long before social media ever did.
Right.
And everybody has their own sphere of influence, because it doesn't matter how many followers I have on any platform. I can't touch your loved ones the way that you can converse with your loved ones. I can't breach that veil of intimacy that you can breach, which affects them more than a tweet of mine or a post of mine ever could. And that's not quantifiable. And I think that it's so important, though, that these celebrities speaking out and public figures speaking out and voicing their opinions, I think it's also important to meet them, because I see a lot of people critiquing them, parang bakit ngayon lang, which is so unfortunate, because it's like, give people their own time, their own pace, their own, when people are working really hard, you can't expect them to also have necessarily the time to be able to inform themselves on every issue, on every single, you know what I mean? And point blank, it's especially harder for people from positions of privilege to look at those things and to examine those things. Because when you are living comfortably, it's not that you're assuming that you're better than everyone. It's that you're assuming that everybody's sort of as comfortable, just subconsciously, I think. And I think that it was this beautiful thing of suddenly we slowly, one by one, influenced each other to speak out and be vocal and be involved, in more than just our homes and more than just our interests, each other's interests in the household, etc. It was just parang domino effect siya.
Right.
And it was really cool to see. It was really humbling to watch. Parang everybody was leveling, in the Kakampink movement. It never felt like one Kakampink was more important than another. Never at any point did I ever feel that. Because we were all in it together talaga. And that goes back to that whole unalone thing. We just were not alone. Which felt nuts. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. And it's already post-election and I'm still haven't recovered.
So speaking of the domino effect and post-elections, do you think entertainers will continue to be as outspoken given the new political climate?
That's a many-layered question.
Yes.
I don't think we should blame people who feel they cannot be after this. Because outspokenness in these circumstances is a privilege. It is entirely a privilege as well. Like to be able to navigate that, because I think now more than ever one can argue it's unsafe. No, and I think it will continue. I hope to be proven wrong. I do. That's what Ate Angel said with Luxin. I love that. I was like, yeah, I really hope I'm proven wrong, and I hope that we're all, anybody who shares the same sort of sentiments is proven wrong, like genuinely. But even then, it's like having to brace yourself for like a potential impact, right? So, yung ganon, I hope that nobody blames each other also for not being able to maybe overcome their own threshold or their own, how do I put it? Parang everybody has their own tolerance levels for that, I wish I could get more specific.
I think everybody knows what
everybody
you're
knows what I'm talking
about.
about. Everybody has their own tolerance levels for that, okay? And I know that because I've reached what I thought was my tolerance level for years na. And well, you know, apparently, thank God, there's like more in me to be able to go on. But I don't blame people who are not able to. But I do hope pa rin also that we have those who, you know, because there's a lot of bravery that comes with that, like a lot. But at the same time, the people who are able to more comfortably than others, I hope that they realize that now is the time. That it's like, to a certain extent, it becomes a responsibility and a duty, and not anymore just like a, you know, it's for certain individuals.
Yeah.
I think that it becomes a responsibility.
Right.
To speak out about it and to be able to, especially if you are in conditions that would warrant you safer than others.
Right.
Right? Yeah.
So let's look to the future. What's next for you? Like, can we expect new music inspired by the elections, or?
Actually, first, I had to postpone an album for like 2 years.
Oh my God. Okay.
It was supposed to come because the first EP, there was supposed to be a second EP. And then I decided, no, I'll make this my first album na. And then everything happened. First, Omicron happened, and I was so annoyed because I couldn't record and I couldn't do all these things and stuff like that. But like, obviously, that was just me being a little selfish. Like, we isolated everything. But I think there's like been a very, very long frustration with that of I just want to get it done na. I just want to get it done. But now I think also the time has afforded me to get better, to learn more, to be inspired by other things. And I don't know, I'm excited for that. I really need like an outlet right now. I really need that. And honestly, I kind of wanted to just bury myself in the studio for like 3 weeks. But, you know, things, that's it. I thought it was gonna be like after elections. I thought there was gonna be a sort of, even just a week of like, you know, pause.
Right.
I thought that there would be a rest afforded, but no.
No, you're here in the Rappler office.
Yeah.
We're still talking about
Oh my God. Here we are, right. Also, can I just say, I just realized because it's filming on this side, this is not tinga. Because so many people point that out and they're like, there's something in your teeth. And I'm like, wala, I'm sorry, I did that.
For the
on
record,
purpose.
it's very pretty. I don't know what
thank
you call it, but
it's a tooth gem.
Tooth gems.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm too old for this.
No,
but
no,
yeah.
yeah. Thank you. It's like, I regret getting because this is purple, but it looks black from afar. So people, like, I get it. It looks like pepper or something. It's not. It's, yeah, sorry. I just had to say that for some reason. But yeah, I think that's what's next for me right now, in addition to finally being able to write. I haven't been able to write in so long. Out of sheer anxiety and tension and things like that. Just, it's been weird, and now I need to write everything, you know. It feels odd because it feels like I could write a memoir about this. I'm not gonna do that.
I bet you could, yeah.
I'm not gonna do that, but like, I could, and that's what's scary about it because there's so much. I think especially with campaigns, and I mean the political sphere, especially in the Philippines, all the time naman, people and the media only ever see really like one choice in the end, right? That's like publicized. What people don't see is that there's a million little fights, choices, like things, like background things that lead up to that one outcome in any situation. But like mas lalo na in politics, because there's a lot of, you know, And that's what I hate so much about it, because people love to come to conclusions about issues and things like that by seeing only like the inherent outcome and not the entire, path that led there. And I have the right to make sense of that now. So that's for me personally. I think for the rest of the family, we're probably gonna go to the farm very soon and just. Mom has to shoot though. She's shooting ang Provinciano, which is like, go
Well,
queen.
that could be her way of
Yeah,
kind of
she loves
de-stressing.
the Provinciano cast and crew. She loves them. They take such good care of her. Thank you, by the way, if anybody's watching this and you're part of the cast and crew. Maraming salamat for making alaga my
There are
mom.
actually quite a bit of people watching this, and I have 2 comments here that I want to share with you.
Let's go.
So the first is from Marlea P. Munez. So she has been her own person before. She has been her own person even before the elections. She added so much into the movement in a way that she is able to articulate what others would like to express. Yun.
Thank you. That's very sweet. I've been very nervous this whole time. If it wasn't clear by my kadaldalan and me drinking like 3/4 of this glass.
And then the second one, we're not sure what Leia means, but it's up to you. Leia De Gorio says, "Wala kang pinag-iba sa tatay mo." How do you respond to that?
That is very false, unfortunately. I wish I could tell you, Leia, but there's a lot. Trust me, there's a lot. There's a lot. But I think naman, yun nga, people, afford them the complexity that they're allowed, no? Marami kaming, nako, yun na lang.
Sige. So, how about the Kakampink movement itself? Like, what's next for it? I know that Lenny announced her NGO. So,
Yeah.
do you know anything about the next steps for that?
I don't really, but I can give sort of my 2 cents.
Sure.
And I think that it would be right to capitalize on the momentum that is from there. I hear that a lot of Kakampinks are like seeking grief counseling, which is, oh my gosh. Like, I think that just goes to show, this was the first election also for a lot of people where they were just as invested as us. That was really just it. Yung parang they were just putting their whole, into it. And that's I know what that feels like, because that was, 2019 we lost Ocho Derecho, everything like that. And, Dad's lost before also, 92, Congress. But were that not to happen, my dad always says, first of all, if he didn't lose in 92, he wouldn't have met and married my mom, which means I would not be here in the Rappler office, sitting here talking to you guys. I would just be like a little piece of stardust floating somewhere else. But, so my dad believes in miracles, and my dad believes that in the end, things will always find their way into where they're supposed to be, to get where they're supposed to be. And things will sort of, you said like the dust is beginning to settle.
Yeah.
I don't really believe that. But I think that eventually once it does, it will settle precisely where it's meant to. And I hope that we're able to I just don't want to let all those people down.
Yeah.
Because those were millions who believed in the Kakampink brand of better. And, that's what it is. I think the family's fine in terms of ourselves and worried about ourselves, but we're more worried about everybody, obviously everybody else. And it's this extreme haunting feeling now. Like a room is somehow both so quiet and not quiet at all. Yung parang everybody's just, it's a held breath. And I hope that when we exhale, it's, people are safe, people are healthy, people are well, and people have their freedom. That's all, really.
We're unfortunately down to our last question. I wish we could keep this going. I know you can keep it going.
We could.
So, Kakie, what do you think is the secret to keeping this movement going?
Wow.
Heavy, sorry.
Heavy. No, but because there's so many, I think it would be like, the secret is just to realize, I think that, people who are approaching this with anger, people who are approaching this with, there's a whole range of emotion that comes into this, right? And I think everybody's allowed, in terms of the Kakampinks, I think they are allowed to grieve entirely however they see fit. I think they are allowed their own method for that because it's very personal. It's very much, you know, that's, you can't take that away from someone. But I think that I'm very different from my dad in this regard, maybe. I don't know. Maybe not that different, but like different, or just younger. But I think, yung ganun, I think there's a sort of way to turn those passions that were once so hopeful and once so, you know, like keep the hope, because that is what, I don't want to have to, you know, like I don't think anyone wants to have to rekindle their hope that became like sort of this like stoked flame for so long. But I hope also that we can find other shapes for that hope and put it to good use apart from just daydreaming and pag-asa, yung, you know what I mean, and things like that, and like, oh, like if only, like, no, because you have a say. Again, everybody has their own sphere of influence. Yeah. Everybody's able to exercise a certain amount of power, and sovereignty is with the people, regardless of how it may feel at times. It is completely our call. And it's just so unfortunate, no, to see, because I think there's also a lot of, also right now I have to say this, there's a lot of fake news that's going around that's being spread by both camps, and that needs to stop. It's really harmful. I think it's also not great to make light. Trisha, I think, was the one who tweeted about this last night. It's also really harmful to make light of anything that happened during martial law, especially mas lalo na the atrocities and the injustices. It's really, really harmful to make fun or make light of red tagging when there are activists and students and people who get red tagged for real every day. And I wish that like all those things could be avoided, and I wish that we could just move on to what's the next step, right? And I'll be there for whatever that is. I don't want to leave. I don't want to leave. That's me appealing to my dad. Dad, I don't want to leave. I love you. Please don't send me away. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's the perfect way to end this show. Senator Kiko, please don't let her leave. We appeal
But I'm going to get a telling off about this. I'm going to get a... Yeah.
Okay, so thank you very much, Kakie, for joining us today. And we hope to see you here again, this time as a live jam performer.
Ooh.
Hopefully, when your new album is out.
Thank you so much.
Yay. So that's it, guys, for this episode of Rappler Talk Entertainment. I'm Marguerite De Leon. Thanks for watching.